Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. The year was 1973, and the United Arab Emirates was still in its infancy. Formed just 2 years prior in 1971, the UAE was a federation of 7 emirates that had come together under a single flag, a single vision, and a shared hope for unity and prosperity. The oil boom was beginning to shape the landscape of the Gulf, both economically and culturally, and the new nation was eager to establish its identity on the global stage. One way it did so was through its currency, a symbol of sovereignty and pride. The 50 fils coin minted in 1973 was part of the first series of coins issued under the newly formed UAE. Made primarily of cupronickel, the coin featured inscriptions in Arabic script, reflecting the nation's linguistic heritage, and bore symbols that echoed the region's traditions. One side depicted the denomination and the date in both the Gregorian and Hijri calendars, while the other showcased the emblem of the United Arab Emirates, a simple yet powerful tribute to unity and heritage. What makes this coin so exceptional isn't just its design, though the design is indeed elegant and meaningful. It is the fact that only a very limited number were minted in that year, possibly due to economic transitions, minting decisions, or logistical challenges in the young federation. Whatever the reason, the 1973 50 fils became a numismatic unicorn, rare, elusive, and highly sought after. Collectors began to notice its scarcity as early as the 1980s. By the 1990s, owning a 1973 50 fils had become a badge of honor among regional coin enthusiasts. Stories circulated of coins being found in forgotten drawers or family heirlooms, only to be sold for surprising sums at local markets or international auctions. Over time, the coin's legend grew. Its mystique was only heightened by the fact that many of these coins had likely been lost, melted down, or worn beyond recognition, further decreasing the number in existence. To truly appreciate the journey of the 1973 UAE 50 fils coin, one must understand the context of numismatics in the Middle East. Unlike Western nations, where coin collecting had been a well-established hobby for centuries, the concept of collecting coins for their historical or intrinsic value was still developing in the Gulf region during the latter part of the 20th century. Thus, early collectors often faced a lack of resources, catalogs, or communities. The emergence of the Internet changed that dynamic dramatically, opening new pathways for information exchange and discovery. Through online forums, collector groups, and auction platforms, stories of the rare 1973 coin began to surface with increasing frequency. Some lucky individuals recounted tales of discovering one among their grandparents' old belongings. Others detailed the painstaking searches through old collections, market stalls, and estate sales, hoping to come across this elusive prize. Every confirmed specimen added to the lore of the coin, reinforcing its status not just as a collectible, but as a piece of living history. The rise in demand inevitably led to a surge in price. Initially trading for modest amounts, the value of the 1973 50 fils began climbing steadily in the early 2000s. By the time 2010 arrived, it was fetching thousands of dollars among dedicated collectors. Media coverage and social media virality helped fuel the trend, with some influencers in the coin collecting world calling it the Gulf's hidden gem. With every passing year, the price tag increased, and so did the myths and misconceptions surrounding it. Of course, with great value comes great risk. The market soon became flooded with counterfeits and altered coins, leading to a heightened awareness and demand for authentication. Experts in numismatics started offering verification services, and reputable auction houses began featuring the coin with detailed provenance and condition grading. The few original 1973 50 fils coins that remained in good condition, especially those with minimal wear or pristine mint luster, were elevated to a near-mythical status. For the UAE, this coin became more than just a currency artifact. It was a symbol of the nation's beginnings, a tangible relic of a time when the future was uncertain but filled with promise. As the nation evolved into a global economic powerhouse, its citizens and leaders alike looked back on such humble tokens as representations of how far they had come. Museums began acquiring these coins for their collections, ensuring their stories would be preserved for future generations. The design itself continued to inspire. Modern UAE coins would carry forward the aesthetic principles first laid out in that early series: clean lines, symbolic imagery, bilingual inscriptions. The 50 fils denomination persisted too, albeit in updated forms, maintaining its place in the daily lives of Emiratis while honoring its historic predecessor. It is said that every coin has two sides, but the 1973 UAE 50 fils seems to have many more: economic, cultural, historical, and personal. For some, it represents national pride. For others, it's a story of discovery. For a few, it's a lucrative investment. And for the rare individual who holds one in their hand, it may just feel like holding a piece of history, pressed and preserved in metal. Today, if you were to come across a genuine 1973 50 fils coin, your heart might skip a beat. It might be tucked away in a coin album, resting in a museum display, or hidden in a dusty corner of an old jewelry box. Its weight is light, but its significance is immense. And for the most fortunate collectors, it's a treasure worth up to $175,000, a small coin with a story far bigger than its size, and yet, the story continues. Every year, new collectors enter the world of numismatics, lured by the promise of hidden treasures and untold stories. For many, the 1973 50 fils represents the ultimate goal, a benchmark of success and serendipity. The hunt for such coins is not just about monetary value, but about the joy of discovery and the connection to a time and place that shaped history. The coin has also become a subject of academic interest. Historians, economists, and cultural scholars have begun to examine its role in the broader narrative of Gulf identity and monetary policy. Universities in the UAE and beyond have hosted exhibitions and seminars discussing the significance of early UAE coinage, placing the 1973 50 fils at the center of many conversations. These discussions often delve into the geopolitical climate of the 1970s, the rise of the petrodollar, and how newly formed nations asserted their presence through the creation of distinct currencies. Interviews with longtime collectors and retired mint officials have added further depth to the coin's lore. One former official recalled the logistical challenges faced during the early years of the UAE's formation, including delays in shipping minting materials and inconsistencies in coin production schedules. These first-hand accounts help explain why so few 1973 50 fils coins exist today, and why they hold such enormous value both sentimentally and financially. Social media has also played a major role in keeping the coin's legend alive. Viral videos, reels, and collector showcases often highlight the 1973 50 fils as a holy grail of Middle Eastern numismatics. Young enthusiasts, inspired by these stories, have begun searching their family collections and local flea markets in hopes of striking gold, or rather, cupronickel. Community pages dedicated to coin collecting in the Gulf region frequently feature posts about the coin, ranging from verified finds to passionate speculations. And then there are the stories of rediscovery. One collector from Sharjah shared how he found a 1973 50 fils hidden in a wooden box of miscellaneous items passed down from his grandfather. Another tale comes from a merchant in Fujairah who discovered one in an old cash register during renovations. These anecdotes, whether rare or commonplace, fuel the dream and keep the spirit of the hunt alive. Auction houses around the world now list the 1973 50 fils as a marquee item, drawing the attention of global collectors and investors alike. Bidding wars have broken out for high-grade specimens, with some auctions drawing attention from international media outlets. The coin's value continues to rise, not just due to rarity, but because of the cultural symbolism and historical richness it embodies. In many ways, the 1973 50 fils coin mirrors the story of the United Arab Emirates itself, a young nation that, despite challenges and humble beginnings, rose to prominence on the global stage. This coin, though small and unassuming, encapsulates the spirit of perseverance, unity, and aspiration that defines the UAE. So if you ever find yourself holding one, take a moment to appreciate what it represents. More than metal, more than money, it is a monument to history, heritage, and hope. A 50 fils coin that began its journey in the sands of Arabia, and now, decades later, shines brightly in the world of numismatics as a priceless treasure. In the heart of the Arabian Peninsula, where the golden sands meet the azure waters of the Persian Gulf, a small yet mighty nation was quietly building its future. Qatar, though small in landmass, stood tall in ambition. By 1987, it had already begun to establish itself not just as an oil-rich emirate, but as a nation deeply rooted in tradition and steadily forging a modern identity. Amid the buzz of development and national pride, a modest coin was minted, one that would carry the weight of Qatari heritage in the palm of a hand. The 25 dirham coin struck in 1987 was not a coin that many outside of the region would think twice about. It was simple, functional, used in markets, shops, and transactions that faded into daily routines. Yet time, as it often does, transformed this small disk of metal into a relic of incredible value, not merely financially, but culturally and historically. Because for those who know how to look closely, the 1987 Qatar 25 dirham is more than currency, it is a story, a symbol, a masterpiece in miniature. The design itself speaks volumes. On one side, the coat of arms of Qatar is prominently displayed, a pair of traditional crossed scimitars flanking a dhow, that iconic Arabian sailboat, floating on stylized waves with a lone palm tree swaying between them. It's a compact representation of Qatar's essence, the desert, the sea, and the people who've thrived in both. It reflects resilience, heritage, and an unbroken connection to the land. On the reverse side of the coin, the denomination and year are etched in both Arabic and English, bridging the local and global, tradition and modernity. It was practical and elegant, a coin for the people, but crafted with purpose, minted in a relatively low quantity compared to modern coinage. The 1987 issue carries a unique mystique. It was never intended to be collectible. It was meant for use. But as with many numismatic legends, rarity and condition would be the twin stars that elevated this coin from circulation to reverence. Most of the 1987 coins have long since been worn down, their details smoothed by countless transactions. Others were lost, melted, or forgotten. Only a few, remarkably few, survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Among these survivors are the true stars of the coin-collecting world, those preserved in mint state, untouched by time, bearing their full luster and razor-sharp details. Coins like these have become the holy grail for collectors of Middle Eastern numismatics. Certified grading services, such as NGC and PCGS, have recorded only a handful of 1987 Qatar 25 dirham coins in high mint state, and fewer still with a perfect strike. These coins, sealed in airtight slabs, command respect and awe wherever they appear. But why, one might ask, would such a coin, a modern piece, without gold or silver content, fetch such an astronomical sum as $163,000? The answer lies in a confluence of factors. First, there's the scarcity. Coins from Gulf countries, especially from the 1980s, were not minted in the vast quantities typical of Western nations. And those that remain in top condition are almost vanishingly rare. Second, there's the growing global interest in Middle Eastern heritage. Collectors from around the world, especially from Qatar and neighboring nations, are increasingly valuing tangible pieces of their modern history. The 1987 25 dirham sits at that rare intersection of national pride, artistic beauty, and numismatic scarcity. It wasn't long before collectors began scouring old collections, drawers, and markets for examples of the coin. Stories began to circulate. One man in Doha discovered an uncirculated 1987 coin in his late father's safe. Another, in London, found one tucked away in a coin lot bought decades ago. When a specimen in mint state finally hit the auction block, the bidding was fierce. Middle Eastern collectors, Western investors, and numismatic institutions all vied for it. The price climbed higher and higher, until at last the gavel fell, $163,000 for a single, perfect example of the 1987 Qatar 25 dirham. As news of the record-breaking sale spread across auction houses and numismatic circles, it sparked a wave of renewed interest in Middle Eastern coinage. Collectors who had previously focused their attention on ancient Roman denarii or rare American silver dollars began to shift their gaze eastward. The 1987 25 dirham coin, once exchanged without a second thought in a Doha marketplace, was now being researched, analyzed, and discussed with the same reverence reserved for centuries-old treasures. What caused this surge in fascination? In part, it was the uniqueness of the coin's historical timing that in the late 1980s, Qatar was in a phase of transformation. While oil wealth had already begun to shape its infrastructure and political leverage, the country was still emerging on the world stage. That transitional period is captured in the 1987 coin, not just in its utilitarian function, but in its symbolism. The Dhow represents the seafaring past of Qatar's pearl divers and traders. The palm tree symbolizes sustenance and growth. And the crossed scimitars are not merely weapons, they're emblems of honor, strength, and tradition. Together, they encapsulate an era in which the old and new Qatar were learning to coexist. Holding this coin is like holding that moment, a tangible link between what was and what would be, but beyond the symbolism, there's a kind of poetry in the coin's survival. Coins are meant to move, to pass from hand to hand, to wear down under the pressure of life. Yet a very small number of these coins never fulfilled that destiny. Perhaps they were pulled from circulation by someone who recognized their beauty early. Perhaps they were tucked away in a bank vault by a cautious banker or a traveler keeping a souvenir. These are the mysteries that collectors love, because every rare coin comes not only with minted metal, but with unspoken stories. Some of those stories now circulate in collector communities and online forums. One tale tells of a young Qatari boy in 1987 who, fascinated by coins, asked a merchant for one of each denomination. That 25 dirham, never spent, remained in a family box for over 3 decades. Another story follows a British oil worker stationed in Doha who gathered coins from each country he visited, his 1987 dirham eventually rediscovered by his granddaughter during an estate sale. These anecdotes, whether true or merely folklore, deepen the coin's legend. They make each surviving piece feel personal, touched by human hands, dreams, and histories. When placed under magnification, the 1987 coin reveals even more secrets. The quality of its engraving, especially on uncirculated examples, is remarkable. The edges are sharply milled, the relief still crisp even after decades. The Arabic script, flowing and elegant, contrasts with the geometric precision of the English characters. And on those rare few coins that have avoided the touch of time, a radiant brilliance still reflects light as though the coin had just left the mint. Auction houses have begun to recognize this demand. Catalog listings for high-grade examples of the 1987 25 dirham now often include phrases like museum quality and exceptionally rare. Bidding wars have become common, particularly in the Gulf states, where collectors and national institutions seek to preserve cultural heritage. The price escalation has not been linear, it has leapt in dramatic bursts. From hundreds, to thousands, to tens of thousands, and eventually to that pinnacle figure, $163,000 for a flawless, mint-state specimen, complete with authentication and provenance. And yet, it's not merely about the money. To the most passionate collectors, this coin represents something greater, proof that value is not always about material worth. It's about memory, rarity, connection. For Qataris, it's a coin of national pride. For historians, it's a timestamp. For investors, it's a testament to the growing appreciation of non-Western numismatics. For all, it's a reminder that something seemingly ordinary, a single coin from 1987, can become extraordinary when it survives time with its story intact. As collectors across the globe chase after high-grade examples of this elusive coin, the demand has sparked deeper research into the minting history of Qatar in the 1980s. Records from the time are limited, and unlike major Western mints which maintain detailed public archives, the production details for coins like the 1987 25 dirham remain partly obscured. This absence of data only adds to the allure. Every serious numismatist who attempts to piece together the mintage numbers, die varieties, or design anomalies becomes a kind of detective, reconstructing history through fragments, coin by coin. The question of how many of these coins were actually struck, and how many remain today in collectible condition, remains open. Estimates range in the tens of thousands for general circulation, but uncirculated, mint-state examples. That number may be in the low hundreds, if that. In fact, experts suggest that fewer than a dozen examples have ever surfaced in gem condition, and only a handful of those have been professionally graded. That's the kind of scarcity that transforms a coin from an artifact into a true investment-grade asset, but not all investors are driven solely by profit. Many are regional collectors, wealthy individuals and institutions who understand that a nation's identity is not only in its monuments and documents, but in the objects used daily by its people. The 1987 25 dirham becomes more than a collectible, it becomes a capsule of national memory.